Audio's live. Perk, tell us how your trip to Chicago went.
Disastrous. Hey, I'll tell you this. After landing in Detroit, because the Chicago airports were closed, I drove from Detroit to Chicago. But that drive from Detroit to Indiana, I've never seen so many dead deer on the side of the road. I didn't expect that. I'm glad I was driving during the daylight. But I'm telling you, I probably never went 5 minutes without seeing a dead deer by the side of the road. Didn't expect
it sounds like a bad Stephen King chapter,
Right.
Exactly. What's going on with the deer?
Exactly. I should have brought my dehydrator and made some turkey jerky. Or some deer jerky, rather. Turkey jerky, yeah. I am.
Yeah, I was just going to tweet this out again. Say here. Let me find that. There it is. Okay. All right. Here we go.
Okay. What's up, Dolphins fans? Chris Perkins here, your Dolphins columnist for SunSentinel.com, alongside Dave Hyde, your columnist for SunSentinel.com. And look, things are continuing to look up for your Miami Dolphins. They are 6-3 right now. They're hosting Cleveland this week. Your Dolphins, with a victory and a Buffalo loss, the Dolphins could grab first place in the AFC East with a 7-3 record. Buffalo would be 6-3. The Jets and the Patriots have byes. Look, the Dolphins should be rounding into shape for their stretch run. They've got Bradley Chubb. They've got Jeff Wilson. We'll talk about that trade because it happened after the show last week, or those two trades, I should say. Coach Mike McDaniel, we're going to talk about him also. He's had a few rookie moments, but overall, he's done a very good job with this team. Again, 6-3 record and getting ready to make their playoff stretch run here, their run at the playoffs in the second half of the season. Look, these are exciting times for your Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa playing incredibly well. Tyreek Hill ready to post in NFL records in both receptions and receiving yards. The defense, they're not really where you want them on the day-by-day, consistent play thing, but they make big plays. We just saw them win the Pittsburgh game with a couple of late interceptions. Special teams, you'd like to see them tighten things up also, but again, the big plays, the Jalen Phillips block punt, Andrew Van Ginkel returns it for a touchdown against Chicago in last week's 35-32 win. That sets the table. This is Dolphins Deep Dive. Let's dive in. All right, so Dave Hyde, for segment one, what do you think about the Dolphins' position right now? Again, if they win and Buffalo loses, the Dolphins are 7-3, Buffalo 6-3, and the Dolphins are in first place in the AFC East. They've added Bradley Chubb and Jeff Wilson. What do you think about the way this team is looking right now, Dave Hyde?
Well, let's look at the AFC East as a whole, because right now every team in the AFC East is thinking what the Dolphins are, okay? And it was supposed to be, and really, depending on the Josh Allen injury, I think it still is. Buffalo is the heavyweight, and can the others rise up and knock out Buffalo? Now, if Josh Allen's hurt, it all changes. But the big picture is the AFC East has become what I thought, and everybody thought, I think, was the AFC West was supposed to be before the year, where four teams, any of them could win it. And look at the AFC West. Two of the teams are the Raiders and the Broncos are duds. And in the AFC East, the Jets knock off Buffalo last week. The Patriots somehow are still alive with that meager offense they got. And so you got four cities and four markets that are saying, okay, we can do this. And the Dolphins right there with everybody.
Yeah, and look, what do you make of this? Because to me, the road records in the AFC East are one of the most surprising things about the division. Every team has a winning road record. The Jets are 4-0 on the road. Everybody else is 3-2. And what that says to me is, even your home games in the division are not a definite win, because any of these teams can come into your stadium and get a victory. And so I think that's, obviously with all four of these teams having a winning record at the midway point of the season, that's a shock to me. I did not expect that. And Robert Saleh, you got a receipt on me, because I'm one of the people who said those Jets were not going to have a winning record at this point. But what does the winning road records, Dave, does that mean anything? Is there any significance at the midway point to you with that?
Well, I guess the significant, and I haven't gone through these records, so this could be thrown back in my face, but they're playing the NFC North with three bad teams, and so that has to help. That they're playing. Again, nobody thought Green Bay would be this Green Bay. At least, again, I didn't. You just go by the last 15 years of Aaron Rodgers, and that team's not there anymore. And then you got, Detroit's bad for a reason, and Chicago. They're mediocre. They're a team that really doesn't know who it is. It's figuring it out, and they traded players. So again, the AFC East is better than I thought. The Jets would be bad. I thought the Patriots, especially after seeing them in the first week, were a 6-7 win team, and both of those teams have found the way to stay in the season, and in the Jets' case, to thrive in the season. So now we get to the second half, and everybody knows who they are by this point and who the opponent is. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, and Dave, let's move to the old news, but that it is fairly new for this show, and that's the acquisitions of Bradley Chubb and Jeff Wilson. And I love these trades as a tandem, Dave. Just getting Bradley Chubb, to me, and let's face it, he's the high profile guy of these two trades, right? The edge rusher, the guy who got the $100 million contract, the guy who is really the difference maker. But the Dolphins also needed something on offense, and they needed something either on the offensive line or in the run game. I really like that they got Jeff Wilson for this run game. Not only is he familiar with Mike McDaniel and Raheem Mostert from their days together in San Francisco, and does he know this offense, but he's a physical runner, and he can catch the ball, as we saw last week. And so I think if you add more run to this offense, and look, the Dolphins are, I want to say 28th or 29th in the league in rushing at like maybe 86 yards per game. I should have memorized that before the show here. I've written it so many times, but they need some run game help. You can not only occupy time on the clock. It's another way to move the ball. It gives the offense a new dimension. It gives you the option of play action for the passing game. Maybe you get another team to drop that safety into the box. It does so many things for your team and for your offense that I think that the tandem of these deals, the Bradley Chubb and the Jeff Wilson, I think is just what this team needed. Credit to Chris Greer, credit to, I'm sure Mike McDaniel had a big voice in this. We'll see what happens this year, but I think these deals really set the Dolphins up for the next couple of years. It's hard to have more than a 3-year plan in any sport because of injuries and free agency and et cetera, but they're not done by any stretch, but I really like both of these deals. Your thoughts on these deals, Dave?
Well, obviously the Wilson trade was the big one, right? Considering his production in the first game.
Right.
I love. Look, if you read my columns last week, I said make the trade for Chubb. The first round pick might have made you pull back, at least debate it a little more. I'm sure they debated inside, but I love it. They have a window with Tua and the contract, not just him, but other young contracts that the Bills come and due, and they have to decide, contracts coming up. But they have about a 1.5-year window before they really have to start thinking of that. And now's the time to go for it. Now's the time to add expensive players, and there's risk involved. And it's not the first round pick to me. It's the injury history of Chubb thrown on top of the injury history of Teron Armstead, the injury history of Tua. I mean, they have some guys out there who have, in a violent game where you usually don't get healthier as you move through it, that have injury risks. And so it's a cross your finger as much as anything else. But look, they needed a pass rush. They needed someone to help the pass rush. Now, you didn't see it in the Chicago game against a Bears offensive line that gave up more sacks than anybody in the league. So you would have hoped to seen something in the first game, but this isn't a one game litmus test. There'll be plenty of time to figure out how to use Chubb in addition to the other rushers, and hopefully at the same time it picks up some of the other rushers, the Ogbahs, who's been noticeably absent this year, and Jalen Phillips, who I think still rising to find who he is in the NFL.
Yeah, and look, and you're right. Your columns were very good about Chubb, and if the Dolphins think that they're contenders, you need to make this move. I have no problem giving up that first round pick because, Dave, I love trading the known for the unknown. You don't know what that first round pick is going to be. You know what Bradley Chubb is. So I have zero problem making that part of the trade. But you're right about the injury concern. And Chubb has had a ACL and an ankle problem. And so if he can stay on the field, I think he definitely helps this team. And you also mentioned that there's a window with Tua because of his contract. Let's go to our first Twitter question. And we always thank you people for sending in these Twitter questions when I request it. This one from Twitter comes from Johnny J 0833 8424. How's that? His question: honest thoughts on where Tua is in year 3, ahead, behind, or unscheduled? I'll take it first, Dave. I think that he's a little bit ahead of schedule because of the tools that they've given him. Because you've got Jalen Waddle and you've got Tyreek Hill. I think that helps you get ahead of where you could have been without them. I would say that he's unscheduled. Again, the questions coming into the season for me were, can he throw deep / arm strength and then decision making? Tua has been great on both of those. Not perfect, but he's been great on both of those. He has answered the questions that I had midway through the season. Now, you can't answer a whole season's worth of questions in a half a season, but I don't have any problem with where Tua is right now with these tools. His accuracy we knew was going to be there, but I would say that he's a little bit ahead of schedule to me. Hyde?
Look, let's remember, he was the 5th pick in the draft. Okay, yep. He's on schedule for a guy in his 3rd year, meaning he's proven he's an NFL quarterback, right? A starting NFL quarterback, and rising up to. We're debating now where the ceiling is really, and you're debating. The heavyweight question is the contract coming up. Are you ready to give him? You don't have to give him money. You're not going to give him it now, but are you going to say it's an automatic that you give him the big contract with the big signing bonus, the Josh Allen $250 million with $150 million guaranteed? That's going to be the next question. So he was so far behind schedule the first 2 years because. There were a million things from the offensive staff, offensive help, to him not knowing the playbook, as he said. So he was so far behind that he's on schedule now. He's where he should be in the 3rd year when you were taken to be the franchise quarterback with the 5th pick in the draft. And that's great. That shows how many progressive steps he's taken this season compared to the standing start he had when Mike McDaniel came in the building.
And Hyde, you talk about Tua being the 5th pick. He was going to be the number 1 pick if not for that injury, for that hip injury. And so, even for me to say that he's ahead of schedule, I think that for me, I've seen a lot of things, just kind of game management things from Tua that I wasn't sure that were there, because when you're on an Alabama team that has so much talent, you always kind of think, is this Tua or is this a combination of Tua plus the talent around him? And then he gets to the Dolphins the first 2 years, and as you say, everything was just so disjointed, from whether we're talking about his health or whether you're talking about the offense or the support that he got from the coaching staff. I think the Tua that I see now, again, he has not fully answered all of the questions I had coming into the season. But at this point, to me, he's answered my questions better than I thought that he would answer them. So that's why I say, to me, he's a little bit ahead of schedule. I like what I've seen from Tua this season. Have no problem with it. Hyde, I guess your feeling for this team in these last 8 games, 4 of them are on the road, 4 of them are at home. I think optimism has got to be high for this team. There are some, the defense is has been shaky, but again, they've managed to make plays. You've got that tough 3-game road schedule stretch rather of you're going to be out at San Francisco, at the Chargers, and at Buffalo. Again, that Buffalo game could be flexed to Saturday night, which makes it a short week in December going on the road. But I'm still optimistic for the rest of the season. Your feelings for the rest of the season for this team?
Well, again, they have a couple softer opponents the next 2 games. And then it gets tough. They have 3 road games in a row, as you mentioned. The issue to me is, can the defense find its stride? Can it improve? And it's really weird. Usually in the NFL circles, they say bad offensive lines don't travel well. Meaning on the road, whatever problems you have on the offensive line are going to be exaggerated. With the Dolphins right now, their defense isn't traveling. Look at their home scores. They gave up 7 points to New England, 19 to Buffalo, 24 to the Vikings, and 10 to Pittsburgh. Then you turn it around. What they've given up on the road is 38, 27, 40. Now, that was a Jets game in which the offense contributed to that 40. And then the last 2 weeks, 27 and 32. They've given up a lot of – they're not very good on the road. And can they improve that? Can they find answers? It isn't all the fact that Byron Jones isn't there. I mean, there's some, and they lost Brandon Jones in the secondary. That was a significant loss to them.
And Nick Needham.
So to me, that's where we point to it. And can the offense keep this going? Can it keep it going? What they've done on the road the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Dave. And being the brilliant marketing man you are, you lead us straight into segment 2. And that's that, hey, pat yourself on the back. There are signs that this party train could hit a slowdown. And look, the Dolphins have a brilliant offensive scheme under the tutelage of Mike McDaniel. Their use of motion, the use of the wide receivers, the timing with Tua and the passing game. Those things have been brilliant, but you've also had Mike McDaniel showing signs of being a rookie coach, passing up on the field goal attempt, the management, being slow getting plays into Tua. And you go a step beyond that, Dave Hyde. The Dolphins are -3 in turnover margin. They're -11 in point differential, which I don't really look at point differential, but some people do. And the penalties
I do.
Yeah, you're a point differential guy. The penalty issue is improved, but let's see that for more than 1 week. Special teams have been spotty. You did have the missed field goal last week, but you had the blocked punt. But the signs that this team could hit a slowdown, are these serious signs, Dave, or is this just kind of nobody's perfect?
Well, look, regarding Mike McDaniel, he's been to me the surprise of the year. Okay, coming in a first-year coach. He was the offensive coordinator in title in San Francisco, but everybody knows it was Kyle Shanahan's offense and his team. And so to come in here and bring in a scheme that I'm just stunned by the amount of open receivers that are running out there every week. Okay. There have been issues. I'm not really worried about the issues. I think he'll clean up. And he'll learn from the, time management and when to kick a field goal, when to not. That'll take care of itself because he's shown he's very smart. And, he's a surprise of the year to me. You didn't know what to expect when he came in the door. Dolphins were the only team that interviewed him. And so, The first half he's had has really, him solving Tua, first of all, from the second he came in the door was genius, and it changed the franchise. Okay, if he can keep him on an upward trend and into what he's looking like he could be right now, it's the quarterback that they drafted and you didn't see for the first 2 years. So I'm not really worried about that. Again, to me, the question is, can they solve the defense? Can they get some better answers? And you've seen the defense play well. And then you see the last 2 games where they just, for 6 of 8 quarters, they were awful.
Yeah, I ride with that defense. I love that defense. But there are signs that the defense is got some leakage to it. They've been able to make plays. And look, the fact that Justin Fields rushes for 178 yards, NFL record by a quarterback in a regular season game, that's troubling. But you add to it what Lamar Jackson did to them, and you consider that Nick Chubb is coming up this week, the Cleveland running back, and you kind of worry about the run defense. Although I think the run defense has been okay. It hasn't been good, but it's been okay. It's been good enough. But I think with this defense, you're seeing less and less areas that are good, and more areas that are just kind of, well, they're finding a way to get it done. The secondary has an excuse because of all the injuries. But yeah, the linebackers, the pass rush, that defensive front, you would like to see them get things done on a more consistent basis, a basis where you would say, okay, you can rely on this unit to do this. Like you can rely on the pass rush. You can rely on the run stopping. I'm not sure that there's a whole lot that you can definitely rely on except for big plays. And maybe that's where this team and where this defense is finally going to settle in, that they're a big play defense. Hyde, you're laughing. Are you laughing because I look ridiculous with the sun on my face? Or are you laughing
it looks like what's the Joker, like a split face now. You got the sun working.
And you know what the big problem here is, and I'll be blinds drawn, but I'm missing one of the little things, and the sun is going right. It's shooting the gap right now, and I'm going to go blind in my right eye by the end of this segment. But that's okay. That's all right. It's totally
yeah. Look. Do they need? Is it schematics, or do they need better individual play? That's really the question here, because last year they won on schematics on defense when they had the 2 shutdown cornerbacks, and they would throw all these various blitzes at teams. Okay, they're not being able to do that this year because they don't have the other shutdown corner, and so it's more one-on-one matchups, and they're not winning those. So they got to come up with something different, I think, in the second half of the year.
Yeah, and Dave, when you look at this defense, though, I do kind of like some of the individual pieces, but yeah, at what point does it get to be too much? And you look at, again, the secondary losses when you lose Byron Jones, Brandon Jones, and Nick Needham. It gets to be it.
Oh, come on, Perk. We weren't making excuse. We weren't when Baltimore was out without 3 of their secondary, and all we talked about was how great the Dolphins were in the fourth quarter. When Buffalo was out without their 2-star safeties, and Buffalo started guys with 6 total NFL starts in their complete secondary. We never talked about that. So yes, they have issues. I think Brandon Jones is a significant loss because of what he could do, but. You got to make it work. You got to come up with answers.
Oh, you do, and I'm not making excuses, but I'm saying at a certain point you wonder, does it get to be too much for this team? Because once you're down to your 4th or 5th string guy, it's tough. But let's go to our Twitter question while we're talking about this defense. And again, thank you to everybody for sending in these Twitter questions when I request them. This one comes to us from JF Maximilian. And Jay says, I'm willing to give the defense a pass because Justin Fields was out of his mind good yesterday, and his play might have caught them a bit off guard. Mac Jones and Zach Wilson ain't doing that to them. That being said, how do you think Chubb looked? Hyde, do you want to take that first, or do you want me to take it?
Look, Chubb, and in fact, I was looking at the numbers. The Cleveland offense is it's pretty good, even with Jacoby Brissett back there. They're in some of the stats I look at, red zone trips. They're fifth in the league. They've been in the red zone the fifth most of any team in the NFL. They're ninth on percentage of TEs, which isn't bad. For comparison, the Dolphins are 12th in red zone trips. With all their now, some of that they're throwing 60-yard touchdown passes, but that gives you an idea. Look, Chubb he's a throwback to let him carry the offense. In a way like Tennessee, few teams allow a running back to become the focal point of their offense, but he is in Cleveland. And, one of the problems the Dolphins have had is matching up physically, and they've answered it a lot better this year. Christian Wilkins, Zach having really good seasons. But they're going to be asked to do it again this week because I'm sure Cleveland's going to come out and say, let's see if we can run them over.
Yeah. And look, I thought Bradley Chubb didn't look as ridiculous as I look right now with this streak of light going across my face. Next week, I got to spring for that new little slat right there. But look, Bradley Chubb did get a lot of pressures. He said that he was probably going to be a little nervous, first game with a new team. He had a good win rate. He did apply some pressure, but I think that, when we talk about the losses of defensive personnel and we talk about the slippage of the defense, let's see how much Bradley Chubb can do that. Because when you talk about complementary football, it's not just the offense helping the defense. It's also the pass rush helping the pass coverage and things along those lines. So let's see if Bradley Chubb can help as far as the coverage and getting pressure and forcing the defense to make some mistakes, putting some pressure.
You need more than one tackle out of Bradley Chubb. Okay. Right. In the battle of Chubbs this week, Nick Chubb or Bradley Chubb, you better be talking as much about Bradley Chubb as Cleveland will be talking about Nick Chubb. Okay, you want to see some impact.
Yeah, and look, Dave. Let's talk about the offense real quick because that was a unit that before the last couple of weeks they were not scoring touchdowns on a consistent basis. You go to Detroit, which is maybe one. You go to Chicago, one of the worst teams in the league. You score 35. And so the question is, has this offense found something? Are they under something? I think as long as you have this passing game combination, right, of Tua to Tyreek and Tua to Jalen Waddle, you are under something. You couple that with the fact that in the last 2 weeks, Tua has only taken the 2 sacks. And so something is going right up front. And so you have to credit that offensive line. So I think if the passing game and the offensive line can stay in unison, I think you are onto something offensively where you can score more touchdowns on a more consistent basis at home or on the road, whether it's against Detroit, Chicago, Buffalo, San Francisco. I'm not even getting a run game would really help, but I do think that this offense is rounding into shape as a consistent, reliable unit. They're not going to average 30, but I think that when you talk about the complementary football overall, well, they can carry the defense right now. So I do think that this offense is finding itself right now.
Well, the offense, what the strength, as we know, is the speed on the outside, okay, and the speed deep, the ability to take teams for I just have to laugh. The first series last week, Tyreek Hill got deep on the Chicago defense. When all week, I'm sure Chicago coaches were saying the one thing we can't allow is these guys to get deep on it. And it just tells you how tough they are to take on. Okay, and so you know what the offense wants to do. The last couple of weeks, they've got to it. They found, okay, they've got the rhythm. They've got Tua in sync and back from the whole concussion protocol. But it was against two of the worst defenses. Detroit was the worst defense. And I know everybody will point Aaron Rodgers had a 9 points. Okay. Everybody else at home this year, before last Sunday's game, the away teams were averaging 37 points in Detroit. Okay, in the dome. So that tells you how bad Detroit's defense has been. Chicago just traded away two players. It doesn't dismiss the fact the Dolphins are finding their footing, and it's a blast to watch them spread their wings and become a not just a good offense, but a highly entertaining offense. When's the last time we could say that? What are we going back to the early 90s? And so it's a lot of fun to watch. That said, they're going to have to step up in weight class here against defenses and prove they can still do that. And that's the issue. It's not a doubt. It's not a thing saying, oh, well, you're saying they can't do it. No, we're going to have to see. Can they do that? That's the issue.
Right. And then just to wrap this thing up here, Dave, about the things that could be ominous signs, the -3 in turnover margin. Great that the Dolphins have gotten that under control offensively. Defensively, you would like to see them create takeaways, create turnovers on a more consistent basis. Will that happen? I don't know, but I think as long as your offense is not giving the ball away, you're okay right there. The -11 in point differential, I'm not I don't care. That could just be, you had a couple of games where you got outscored badly, and I know that's not necessarily the sign of a good team getting outscored badly, but I don't pay attention to that. The penalties and the special teams are more concerning. Special teams, with Jason Sanders missing that field goal attempt, the 29-yarder, I believe it was. Mike McDaniel said a gust of wind came up, but otherwise that one would have made it. But maybe he's taken up for Jason Sanders. But and they didn't kick the 32-yarder. They didn't take that. Look, even in high school, you kick a 32-yard field goal, right? And so you wonder if Mike McDaniel is losing a little faith in Jason Sanders. Or
no, look, you go for that fourth down. I had no problem.
I think so
fourth
too.
and 3. You're up by 3. You have a chance to. And Smith was wide open. Okay, and so
right, Durham Smythe, yeah.
Durham Smythe was wide open, and so that was the right call. It just didn't work out. I don't have any problem with Mike McDaniel going for it there. You have a chance to salt the game away. Field goal puts you up 6 points. I mean, so I would have gone for it every time there.
Yeah, and turnover margin and point differential, big deals, or just that'll work itself out?
No, the turnover margin, as any coach will tell you, is the number one indicator of wins and losses. And so that's a problem. And the problem is that the defense really isn't, other than Xavier Howard, they don't have anybody right now who's causing turnovers. And so, that's an issue. And you think of last year when they started their run, they were causing turnovers with blitzes and everything else. So they need to be more impactful on defense. Point differential is a guideline to me. It's a guideline. Usually the best teams have a high point differential. The worst teams don't. And the marginal teams, there'll be a regression to the mean. -11 says, okay, they're 6-3. They're probably they don't deserve to be 6-3. That's what it's a guideline towards that. So we'll see how it plays out the rest of the year.
Yeah, we will, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see with that. Yeah, that turnover margin is a big one. That's one that Mike McDaniel said he looks at. As you said, all coaches look at it. So let's migrate to our third segment, Dave. And we were just talking about the warning signs. Let's go the other way. What's the ceiling for this Dolphins team? And really, this might be the most legitimate I guess, early season, preseason optimism since 2017, right? The year after they went to the playoffs in 2016, the way this season started out. Offense, of course, rounding into shape. Tua, Tyreek, Jalen, offensive line playing better. You've got Jeff Wilson added to the mix. The defense has been inconsistent, but it's done enough to get 6 victories. And we're going to go out to Twitter and for this question, and it's a very simple question, but I think one that everybody wants to know. It comes to us from Bobby Barrow 8, and the question is, how far can this team go if they stay healthy? I'll tell you this, I've got them as a playoff team right now, which I think most people do, right? At 6-3 with 8 left, there's no guarantees, but you go 500, you get 10 wins. I would think that 10 wins is going to get you into the playoffs, although we know that that's not a guarantee. But you know, the ceiling for this team, I think they're a playoff team, Dave. I don't know yet what the ceiling is. Is it 1 playoff victory? Is it 2 playoff victories? I don't know. Is it you know, winning the Super Bowl? Let's throw that out there. I don't yet know what the ceiling for this team is. I don't even know how many victories they'll have, 10, 11, but I think that they're definitely a playoff team, and that's about as far as I can go with it right now. What do you think the ceiling is right now?
Well, we'll look at the other teams other than Buffalo, the city. You know, the Jets are the 5th seed. Are you kidding me? I'm not really scared of the Jets. So, and the Chargers are the 7th seed, and you know they're. I don't even know who the Chargers are. They're you talk about the Dolphins getting a good coaching staff coming in here, and you see the difference. The Chargers are still lost as an organization and coaching, and so to me. Anybody but the Chiefs and the Bills, and other than that, they can take on anybody. And if Josh Allen's hurt, if they get to Kansas City day, you know, you can point to, as we all do, Cincinnati going to the Super Bowl last year. You know, as most coaches say, the first half figured out who your team is and where you go. Now the season starts. Right. Now you know who the other team is. You know who your team is. You know how you're going to who gets hot in November and December to carry it into the playoffs.
Well, okay, and on that topic, Dave, what is the identity of this Dolphins team, offensively and defensively? Because to me, I still don't know. I think that right now
you don't know what the identity of the offense is after these last 2 weeks. I mean, where Tyreek Hill is running deep and Jalen Waddle and Tua's finding them open. I mean, it's speed on the outside and get the ball to those guys as many times as you can in a game.
Yeah, they're a passing offense, but are they a high scoring? I go back to big play, right? Like right now, I think that this is a big play team on both sides of the ball. The kind of workmanlike offense. I think that Jeff Wilson will help you chew up time on the clock and go, you know, first down, as opposed to, you know, 50 yards to Tyreek, 30 yards to Jalen, and now you're in the red zone. I think it's still a big play team. And look, there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just, you know, is that the identity of this team? I think defensively, that's what I think. And so do you think that's going to stay the identity of this team? And I think at this point, yes, that we're midway through. We're still looking, but yes, and defensively, that's not what you thought was going to be the identity of this team. It's not what you want it to be the identity of this team, but I think that that's what you're working into on both sides of the ball. And if so, is it sustainable defensively? Offensively, when you've got Tua, you've got Waddle, you've got Tyreek, and can't stop you, yeah, that's sustainable. It would be nice to have that running game. And you know, look, I'll tell you this also, Dave, that there's been talk about, well, what's going to happen if they have to go on the road in the playoffs in cold weather? Are they going to be able to pass? I think yes. I'm not worried about that at all. I think that that's overblown. Is Tua going to be able to pass in cold weather? I really think that's overblown. I really do. I'm not a big weather guy. And that's even the September games, 1 o'clock games here. I'm not a big weather guy. But
Buffalo lost 13 players playing the Dolphins in that heat. I'm a weather guy when the other team is 13 people down. That the weather helps you in that regard. And yeah, I think that when you have a passing attack, especially a deep passing attack, and you have to pick your moments when the wind's going to help you, and you're not thrown into it if you're that team. So we're going to have the dispute through Orchard Park in December, I think, and New England when they have to go to Foxborough January 1st. If they get a bad weather day, it'll be interesting to see how they adjust. I mean, I think there are adjustments to make, but you can't have that wing it downfield in 30-mile-per-hour winds in January day.
But you know what? Here's the thing that I think about the Dolphins' passing game and offense is that there are so many short passes, and again, that's NFL offense nowadays. The majority or half of your passes are going to be from 0 to 10 yards, right? 10 yards at the past the line of scrimmage. That's almost a de facto run game. And you look at the ways,
but they have these short passes because teams are scared to death. You look at the safeties; they're in another county when they play in they're like standing in Broward County when they play at Hard Rock Stadium. So if they can compact, then some of those short passes won't be there. And then the adjustments. What does McDaniel and Tua do? There's all that. But to me, this offense is predicated on the speed at the outside and the fact they know teams are scared to death of those two receivers, especially Hill.
Yeah. I'm getting the ball to Tyreek, and the creative ways that McDaniel has done that with the jet sweep and the reverse and the screen pass and the deep pass and the intermediate, the comeback, all of these different ways. I don't think that weather is going to deny that. Look, Tyreek is a guy who played in Kansas City, so we know he can do it. Can Tua do it? Can Jalen Waddle do it? Can the rest of them do it? I think that they're going to be able to do it. Dave, when special teams, are you seeing positive signs there, enough positive signs when you talk about the ceiling for this team? Can special teams be a contributor? And we talked about Jason Sanders, we talked about the block punt, but there have been inconsistencies. They had a fake punt executed against them. They had the butt punt, which, was an isolated incident. Thank goodness we aren't going to see anything like that again. Special teams, are they an anchor, or can they pick up their consistency and be something that helps this team when you talk about the Dolphins' ceiling?
Well, you saw what special teams can do. Jalen Phillips, I mean, he about took the guy. He could have eaten the punter's foot. He was so on top of it. And that is a pivotal game. All of a sudden, the Dolphins have some breathing room. They have the lead for the rest of the game. But that's the play you haven't got from the special team. In fact, they've gone the other way. A fake punt by Detroit, giving them life, is sort of been the story of this.
And we've had a blocked field goal this year also, the Dolphins have. Looks like Dave Hyde might be frozen there, but look, when we talk about special teams, Jason Sanders did miss the field goal. They've had the field goal blocked. I believe that was was that the Cincinnati game or the Buffalo game? But we're going to see. They've got Cedric Wilson returning punts now, so we'll see if he's a difference maker from that standpoint. But I think that special teams are going to be able to make some plays, but you would like to see them tighten up. It's kind of the same story as the defense. So we'll see if we can get Dave Hyde back. But if not, I will, or in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and make my prediction for the game. Again, the Dolphins at 6-3 have a chance to take over the AFC East lead if they can win and Buffalo loses. Buffalo is playing Minnesota. We'll see what the deal is with Josh Allen. But look, I'm going to give this one to the Dolphins, 28-24 over Cleveland. And, we'll see what happens with the defense. I think they're going to put in a good performance. You're worried about Nick Chubb, the Cleveland running back. He's second in the NFL, 841 yards rushing. Again, the Dolphins just gave up that big game, 178 yards to Justin Fields. So you definitely got an eye on that run defense and how much of a factor it could be. Look, and if Cleveland gets a lead and they're able to control the clock a little bit with Chubb, can the Dolphins play some catch-up ball? We saw them do it in grand fashion against Baltimore, on the road at Baltimore, I should say. But we'll see if that becomes a factor this week. But again, I've got Dolphins 28 and Cleveland 24. And I think that's going to wrap us up for this week. Like we're not going to get Dave Hyde back, but with this sun coming in on my face, hopefully I can get that slat replaced by next week, or I can be smarter and I can find a different place to sit. We'll see what happens. Hey, that's all for now. That was Dave Hyde, your Sun Sentinel columnist. I am Chris Perkins, your Sun Sentinel Dolphins columnist. We will check in with you next week, noon Tuesday.